The air in the Amazon does not simply surround you, it weighs upon you like a physical burden. It is a thick, tangible soup of humidity that clings to your skin and fills your lungs with the scent of ancient decay and explosive life. As you step deeper into the emerald shadows, you realize with a jolt of primal fear that you are not just walking into a forest. You are entering a massive, living, breathing organism that is actively watching your every move. Every breath you take feels like it was borrowed from the trees, and every footfall vibrates through a tangled root system that feels more like a nervous system. There is a profound, unsettling sense of being an intruder in a world that has absolutely no need for humans. Here, the artificial rules of civilization are stripped away, replaced by the raw, unyielding laws of a jungle that has perfected the art of the hunt over millions of years. You feel a strange pressure on your chest, not just from the heat, but from the sudden, sharp realization that you have dropped to the very bottom of the food chain. Silence in this place is a deceptive thing. It is never truly quiet. It is a layered, chaotic composition of buzzing insects, distant bird calls, and the rhythmic rustle of broad leaves in the wind. But then, the change happens. A sudden, absolute hush falls over the canopy. The colorful macaws go silent, and the constant drone of the cicadas cuts off, as if a switch has been flipped. In that vacuum of sound, you hear it. The sharp, distinct snap of a single twig, somewhere in the dense foliage behind you. I have spent a lifetime navigating these treacherous trails, acting as a guide through the world's most unforgiving terrains. But in this moment, I feel just as vulnerable as you do. My pulse quickens, and the fine hairs on my neck stand up in an instinctive reaction to a threat I cannot see. I am supposed to be the expert who knows these woods, but the truth is that no one truly masters the Amazon. We are merely guests who haven't been asked to leave yet, walking on a floor of leaves that hide 1,000 different ways to die. Our human instincts are tragically poorly equipped for this environment. In the modern world, we rely almost entirely on our eyes to tell us the truth of our surroundings. But here, our primary senses fail us. The color green is no longer a beautiful sign of life. It becomes a tactical barrier. Every shade of emerald, jade, and lime blends together into what we call the green wall. It is a visual static that masks movement and hides lethal intent. Your brain tries desperately to find patterns, to distinguish a gnarled branch from a tail or a speckled leaf from a predatory ear, but the forest is a master of deception. This sensory overload creates a deep psychological unease. You begin to doubt the very things you see. Is that a shadow shifting in the corner of your eye, or is it just the dappled light filtering through the canopy? In the Amazon, your mind becomes your own worst enemy, spinning terrifying tales of monsters in the dark to explain the persistent, gnawing feeling of being hunted. And make no mistake, you are being hunted. We call it the apex ghost. It is a presence that follows you, staying just out of your line of sight, perfectly synchronized with your own clumsy movements. It doesn't need to rush or reveal itself. It has the infinite patience of a predator that knows it has already won. This creature is the ultimate expression of evolutionary refinement, a killer so efficient that it has become a phantom in the lore of the indigenous tribes. It is a shadow that leaves no tracks and moves without a whisper. You won't see it until it decides the moment is right, and by then, the game is over. This ghost doesn't just kill, it dominates the very space it occupies, a silent king ruling over a vast kingdom of terror. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. People often ask what the most dangerous thing in the jungle is, expecting a story about the largest snake or the fiercest caiman. But the truth is much more unsettling. The most lethal element of this ecosystem isn't the biggest. It is the one you never hear coming. It is the predator that uses silence as its primary weapon, the one that can walk over dried leaves without causing a single vibration. It is a master of camouflage that can vanish in plain sight against the mottled bark of a tree. You could be standing inches away from a lethal strike and never know it. You think you are looking at a mossy tree trunk, observing the ancient textures of the bark, until suddenly the tree blinks. The blink you just witnessed wasn't a mistake. It was the culmination of an evolutionary arms race that has been raging for over 50 million years. To understand the predators that now rule these shadows, we have to look at the Amazon as a hyper-accelerated laboratory of survival. In this dense, green arena, life doesn't just exist. It competes with a ferocity that is hard for the human mind to grasp. Every vine, every insect, and every apex killer is the result of countless generations of brutal selection, where the only prize for winning was the chance to survive another day. This isn't a forest of random growth. It is a masterpiece of biological engineering designed to produce the perfect killer. While other ecosystems across the globe rewarded speed or sheer physical power, the Amazon demanded something far more sophisticated. Absolute, terrifying efficiency. The primary currency in this economy of death is silence. We often think of hunting as a chase, a frantic burst of energy across an open plain. But in the tangled green wall, a chase is a waste of precious calories. Here, the predators have evolved to be stationary engines of destruction. They don't need to hunt. They just need to wait. Evolution has sculpted their bodies to dampen the very laws of physics. The fur of the apex ghost, that elusive jaguar we feel trailing us, is not just for camouflage. Each hair is structured to absorb light and muffle the sound of muscles shifting beneath the skin. Even the pads of its feet are engineered like high-tech shock absorbers, allowing a 200-pound killing machine to move through a graveyard of dry twigs without making a sound that a human ear could detect. It is a level of stealth that makes our most advanced military technology look like a child's toy. Looking back into the deep history of this region, we find the ancestors of these modern phantoms. There was a time when the Amazon was ruled by titans, massive ground sloths the size of elephants and armored glyptodonts that resembled living tanks. These were the megafauna, the heavyweights of a prehistoric era. But as the forest grew denser and the competition more refined, nature realized that being a giant was a liability. The giants were too loud, too slow, and required too much fuel. Over millions of years, the process of evolution began to downsize its masterpieces, trading raw bulk for precision and invisibility. The result is what we see today. Predators that are smaller than their ancestors, but infinitely more terrifying because they have mastered the art of the invisible strike. They transitioned from being tanks to being ghosts. Imagine for a moment being a 19th century explorer. Someone like Percy Fawcett, or a lonely naturalist armed with nothing but a flickering oil lantern and a notebook. You are thousands of miles from any known map, surrounded by a darkness so total it feels like a physical weight. As you hold your lantern aloft, the weak light barely penetrates the green wall, but it is enough to catch the reflection of the layer of tissue behind the retinas of nocturnal hunters. In every direction, you see eyes. Dozens of them, glowing with a cold, predatory intelligence. They aren't blinking. They are calculating. These explorers wrote of a watchful dread that never left them, a psychological erosion caused by the knowledge that they were being observed by thousands of eyes that could see perfectly in the dark. For these men, the jungle wasn't a place of discovery. It was a theater of judgment where they were the only ones who didn't know the lines. As we move deeper, our investigation shifts from a feeling of being hunted to an understanding of the rules that govern this brutal ecosystem. There is a terrifying logic at work here. The Amazon doesn't tolerate waste. Every movement made by a predator is a calculated risk. If a strike fails, the energy lost could mean the difference between life and death. This is why the silence is so heavy. It is the sound of 1,000 killers holding their breath, waiting for the perfect window of opportunity. They have decoded the rhythms of the forest, using the sound of a rain shower or the rustle of a passing troop of monkeys to mask their own approach. They are the ultimate opportunists, blending into the background radiation of the jungle until the very moment they become the center of your universe. The air seems to grow even stiller as the late afternoon light begins to bronze the tops of the highest trees. For a moment, the environment feels peaceful, almost serene, as melodic whistles of distant tinnitus echo through the cathedral-like spaces between the trunks. It is a beautiful, deceptive lull that tricks the senses into a false feeling of security. You find yourself exhaling, leaning against the buttress root of a giant ceiba tree, momentarily forgetting the danger. But in the Amazon, peace is merely the precursor to violence. Without a second's warning, the tranquil atmosphere is shattered. A flash of spotted gold and black fur erupts from a dense thicket of ferns. There is no roar, no snarl, only the sickening thud of impact and the frantic, brief struggle of a peccary caught completely unaware. The strike is so fast, it barely registers as a movement. It is simply a sudden change in the state of reality. The peaceful bird calls are replaced by the raw, wet sounds of a successful kill, reminding us that in this perfected landscape, the transition from life to death is as quick as the blink of an eye. The blood on the ferns is still warm, a vibrant, terrifying red against the emerald backdrop. We are standing in the immediate wake of the apex ghost, the Panthera onca. But to call it a cat is to fundamentally misunderstand its place in this world. The jaguar is not merely a predator, it is the physical manifestation of the jungle's power. Unlike the lions of Africa, the jaguar has evolved to thrive in an environment where every square inch is contested. It is the only big cat that truly rules both the land and the trees. And as we stand here, we breathe the same humid air as a creature that has no natural enemies. Its reign is an absolute dictatorship of tooth and claw, and its methods are unlike anything else in the animal kingdom. While most felids go for the jugular, seeking to suffocate prey in a desperate struggle, the jaguar has developed a direct and brutal strategy. It possesses the strongest bite force of any cat relative to its size, a biological sledgehammer capable of exerting 2,000 pounds of pressure. It doesn't want a struggle. It wants a conclusion. Evolution has shaped its jaw to pierce the thickest hides and the hardest shells. It targets the temporal bone of the skull, driving its massive canines directly into the brain of its victim. This is a surgical, instantaneous termination of life. It is the ultimate expression of the Amazon's demand for efficiency. To watch a jaguar hunt is to see a master at work, bypassing the messy uncertainty of a chase for the cold, hard logic of a mechanical failure. Moving a few yards from the initial struggle, we find evidence of the jaguar's impossible strength. High above us, wedged into the fork of a mahogany tree, sits the remains of a full-grown caiman. It is a sight that defies the laws of physics. This is a carcass that weighs as much as the cat itself. Yet the jaguar dragged it through the thickest undergrowth and hoisted it 15 feet into the canopy. It is a display of raw power meant to protect its prize from scavengers, but for us, it serves as a grim marker of the territory we have entered. The kill site is silent now, but it feels heavy. You can see the deep grooves where the cat's claws bit into the bark, anchoring its weight against the pull of gravity and the resistance of the dead weight. The air here is thick with a scent that overrides every other smell in the forest. It is a pungent, metallic mixture of wet fur and iron, the unmistakable aroma of blood. It clings to the back of your throat, a visceral reminder of the carnage that just took place. But more unsettling than the smell is the sensation of being scanned. Even though we cannot see the golden eyes watching from the shadows, every nerve ending in our body is screaming that we are being observed. It is a primal, ancestral fear, a remnant of a time when humans were frequently on the menu. The jaguar doesn't just see you, it analyzes your movements and your breathing. It recognizes the scent of your adrenaline. It is a predator that lives in the fourth dimension, anticipating your next step before you even take it. You are a guest in its home, and your presence is only tolerated because you are not currently worth the effort. As we leave the tree, giving the invisible king its space, our path leads us toward the forest, where the land dissolves into the murky depths of the river. This is the Black Water, a realm of tannin-stained currents where visibility vanishes beneath the surface. We have spent time looking into the shadows of the trees, fearing the claws that strike from the leaves, but a patient terror lurks where the soil turns to mud. The jaguar is the master of the terra firma. Yet, as we watch the cat pause at the muddy bank, its ears twitching with caution, we realize even the apex ghost respects the boundaries of this ecosystem. The water ripples, a slow, deliberate circle expanding from a submerged log that wasn't there a moment ago. The jaguar is the king. But even kings are afraid to drink from certain parts of the river. The land doesn't just end where the river begins. It dissolves into a liquid graveyard of ancient secrets and predatory patience. We step away from the jaguar's kill, but the ground beneath us becomes increasingly treacherous, turning from firm soil into a thick, clutching mud that smells of sulfur and decaying vegetation. This is the transition into the Black Water, a realm where the Amazon's complexity hides beneath a surface the color of oversteeped tea. The river is saturated with tannins leached from billions of fallen leaves, creating an opaque environment where visibility is measured in inches. Here, the sunlight is finally defeated by the murk. When you look into these depths, you see a dark mirror reflecting your own vulnerability. In the forest, you could rely on your eyes, but once the land disappears, you are navigating a world where you are effectively blind, and the things that live here have spent millions of years perfecting the art of hunting in the dark. Suspended in the stagnant fringes of the reeds is a shape that should be a fallen log. It is dark, rugged, and seemingly weathered by decades of current. But as we watch, a pair of golden prehistoric eyes breaks the surface without creating a ripple. This is the black caiman, a titan that serves as a living bridge to a time before humans existed. This is a 5-meter-long armored vessel of bone and muscle, covered in heat-absorbing scutes that allow it to remain motionless for days. The caiman doesn't hunt with the frantic energy of a mammal. It utilizes the economy of stillness. It is a master of the ambush, its dark hide blending with the tannin-stained shadows of the riverbank. It waits for the moment when a thirsty mammal lowers its guard to drink, and then, with a burst of power from its massive tail, it launches. There is no struggle, only a sudden enclosure within jaws capable of crushing a turtle's shell like a dry leaf. However, the river holds a different kind of ghost, one that moves with a fluidity that makes the caiman look clumsy. If the caiman is the hammer of the Black Water, the green anaconda is its silent, constricting shadow. Forget the cinematic monsters that roar. The true Eunectes murinus is far more terrifying because of its quietness. A large female can weigh 500 pounds, yet she glides through the water with the grace of a ribbon, her olive-green skin and black ovals breaking up her silhouette against the riverbed. She doesn't need to be fast. She only needs to be inevitable. Using specialized heat-sensing pits along her lips, she detects the thermal signature of prey long before it arrives. When she strikes, she doesn't use venom. Instead, she utilizes a sophisticated mechanical process of constriction. Every time the victim exhales, she tightens her coils, preventing the lungs from refilling. It is a cold, calculated theft of breath, a slow-motion erasure of life that leaves the forest as silent as it was before the encounter began. The surface of the river remains disturbingly calm. It looks safe, almost inviting in the oppressive heat of the afternoon. This is the ultimate trap of the Amazonian ecosystem. It lures the senses into a false state of tranquility, using the lack of visible movement to mask the density of the killers beneath. We find ourselves instinctively holding our breath as we move along the bank, our hearts thumping against our ribs as we realize that every ripple could be a snout or a coil. The silence here isn't empty. It is a pressurized weight that presses against your eardrums, a reminder that in this tea-colored abyss, you are the only creature that doesn't know how to breathe underwater. The water is a barrier we cannot cross, a boundary between our world of light and a world of ancient, cold-blooded efficiency. We finally turn away from the murky currents, climbing back onto the higher ground where the buttress roots offer a semblance of stability. There is a profound sense of relief as the water recedes behind the thick curtain of ferns. You wipe the grime from your hands and take a deep breath, believing for a moment that by escaping the river, you have escaped the worst the jungle has to offer. The giants are behind us now, the jaguar in the shadows and the monsters in the mud. You feel a fleeting sense of triumph, a false resolution that the investigation of fear has reached its peak. The ground beneath your feet, which seems so solid, now feels like a living, breathing carpet of hidden threats. But as you lean against a moss-covered trunk to catch your breath, you notice a strange, rhythmic vibration in the air. The water wasn't the only place hiding a monster. Sometimes, the things that truly break you are the ones too small to see until they are already under your skin. The relief of leaving the riverbank is a dangerous illusion, a psychological trick played by a mind desperate for safety. In our human experience, we associate danger with scale, the crushing weight of a caiman's jaws, or the suffocating mass of an anaconda. But as we step away from the water and deeper into the thick undergrowth, the geometry of fear undergoes a radical shift. Here, the landscape belongs to the invisible assassins, creatures so small they could hide under a single fallen leaf, yet possessing chemical arsenals capable of bringing a human heart to a dead stop. You look down at a decaying log, and your eye is caught by a flicker of color so bright it seems out of place, a neon yellow jewel pulsing against the dark, damp earth. This is the poison dart frog. It doesn't run, it doesn't hide, and it doesn't need to. In a world where camouflage is the primary law, this tiny amphibian breaks every rule with a defiant, colorful arrogance that mocks the shadows. Its skin is a biological billboard of death. We lean in closer, maintaining a respectful distance, our flashlight illuminating waxy, metallic sheen of its skin. This isn't just a pretty creature, it is a concentrated dose of lethality. The science of fear here is rooted in absolute efficiency. A single frog carries enough batrachotoxin to kill 10 grown men. As an investigator, I find myself questioning the overkill of nature. Why craft such a potent weapon for a creature that merely eats tiny ants and beetles? It is a masterpiece of chemical warfare. To touch this frog is to invite a total collapse of the nervous system. The toxin blocks nerve impulses to the muscles, leaving the victim paralyzed while their heart simply forgets how to beat. The frog's toxicity is a direct result of its diet, turning common insects into a weapon of mass destruction. In the Amazon, the most beautiful colors are the most honest warnings. Moving past the frogs, our attention is drawn to the leaf litter, where something far more aggressive and mobile resides. The Brazilian wandering spider, or Phoneutria, does not wait for its prey to stumble upon it. Unlike most spiders that remain tethered to the safety of a web, this predator is a nomadic hunter, a bundle of bristling hair and high-velocity venom that roams the forest floor at night. Its presence creates a profound psychological weight. Every step you take, every handhold you grab on a low branch, is a potential encounter with a creature possessing one of the most potent neurotoxic venoms on the planet. When threatened, it rears up on its hind legs, exposing red hairs in a display of pure aggression. The venom causes intense pain and systemic failure. It is the realization that the very floor of the forest is a minefield of biological triggers, each one capable of ending your journey with a single, lightning-fast strike. Yet, if you ask those who have lived in this green labyrinth for generations which creature they truly fear most, they will point to the bullet ant. We find a column of these giant ants marching along a route, their dark, armored bodies moving with a militaristic precision that commands silence. To describe the sting of Paraponera clavata as mere pain is an insult to the experience. It is a psychological profile of agony. Victims describe the sensation as being shot by a gun, followed by waves of burning pain that can persist for 24 hours without any respite. It isn't just a wound. It is a mental breakdown, a neurological ordeal that consumes the victim's entire consciousness. The venom, known as ponerotoxin, creates a feedback loop of trauma in the central nervous system, leaving the victim incapacitated. We watch them move, realizing these tiny soldiers rule the understory through a regime of absolute sensory dominance. Standing here, surrounded by these microscopic terrors, the vastness of the forest feels even more intimidating. We have shifted our gaze from the giants to the tiny, and the result is total vulnerability. The Amazon attacks your confidence. You question every texture. Is that moss a cushion, or is it a trap? We look down, but the most observant eyes in the jungle are watching from above. The eyes watching from above do not blink with the slow, calculated deliberation of the caiman, nor do they possess the ground-level intensity of the jaguar. They are perched high within the crown of the emergent trees, 500 feet above the forest floor, where the wind whispers through the bromeliads and the air is thin and sharp. This is the realm of the harpy eagle, the legendary ghost of the clouds. As we tilt our heads back, struggling to see past the layers of verdant growth, the scale of the canopy feels dizzying, a vertical labyrinth where gravity is the only certainty and silence is the only mercy. The harpy is not merely a bird. It is a nightmare dressed in slate-grey feathers, a relic of a more violent era that still rules the sky with an iron grip. Its talons are the size of grizzly bear claws, curved ivory hooks designed for one specific purpose: to pierce the spinal column of a primate or a sloth in a single, silent impact. Looking up, you realize with a cold shiver that while you were worried about the spiders crawling at your feet or the snakes in the mud, the true master of the sky had already mapped the trajectory of your skull. The hunt itself is a masterpiece of aerodynamic engineering and ruthless patience. We catch a fleeting glimpse of movement, a grey shadow detaching itself from a branch with a grace that seems to defy the bird's massive 7-foot wingspan. There is no screech, no warning cry, no rustle of feathers to betray its position. The harpy eagle relies on the absolute element of surprise, navigating the dense, chaotic network of branches with a precision that would shame a fighter pilot. Below us, a troop of capuchin monkeys is foraging among the fruit-laden boughs, their chirps and whistles filling the air with a false sense of security. They believe the height offers them safety from the land-bound killers. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts. The air doesn't just move, it shudders under the weight of an approaching force. In a blur of feathers and predatory fury, the eagle descends. It doesn't swoop in a wide cinematic arc. It drops like a stone, its massive wings folding and unfolding with frantic speed to steer through the narrow gaps in the foliage. We see the impact. A violent collision of bone and feather that echoes through the trees. Within seconds, the eagle is ascending again, its powerful wings beating against the humid air. A screaming monkey is clutched in its talons, the life already fading from the prey's wide eyes as those massive claws exert hundreds of pounds of crushing pressure. This is the brutal efficiency of the canopy, a theater of death, where the audience is the trees and the actors are the shadows. It is easy to view this as senseless violence, a cruel display of power in a world without laws, but in the grand, intricate tapestry of the Amazon, these predators are the necessary keepers of the balance. They ensure the forest remains healthy by weeding out the weak, the sick, and the slow, preventing any single species from overrunning the finite resources of the green wall. This is the Great Feast, a never-ending cycle of energy where every drop of blood spilled on a waxy leaf serves as a vital nutrient for the roots buried deep below. The harpy eagle's reign is absolute. Yet even this ghost of the clouds exists in a delicate, dangerous tension with the ground dwellers. As we trek further, pushing through the wall of ferns, we reach a point where the dense forest floor meets the edge of a stagnant, dark lagoon. A place where the territories of the Titans overlap in a dangerous Venn diagram of hunger. Here, the rules of the jungle are tested to their absolute breaking point. We find evidence of a struggle that occurred only hours ago. The reeds are crushed flat, and the mud is churned into a dark, bloody paste that smells of iron and rot. This is the site of a rare and violent encounter, a jaguar meeting an anaconda. On land, the cat is the apex ghost, but at the water's edge, the advantage shifts with every inch of depth. We can almost see the ghosts of the battle, the jaguar attempting to crush the snake's skull with its specialized bite, while the anaconda tries to drag the predator into the suffocating cold embrace of the black water. It is a clash of prehistoric proportions, a rivalry that has existed for millions of years. Neither predator enters this battle lightly. Both know that one mistake, one slip in the mud, means becoming a meal for the other. This isn't just survival. It is the ultimate expression of the Amazon's brutal hierarchy. The air is beginning to cool, but the humidity remains a thick, suffocating blanket that clings to our skin. As we stand near the site of the struggle, we notice the light changing. The vibrant, emerald greens of the afternoon are bleeding into deep violets and charcoal grays. The sun is dipping below the horizon, casting long, distorted shadows that stretch across the forest floor like reaching fingers. The transition from day to night in the jungle is not a gradual fade. It is a violent shift in the sensory landscape. The daytime birds are falling silent, their songs replaced by the low, rhythmic hum of nocturnal insects and the distant, haunting calls of the potus. The investigator in me feels a new, sharper kind of dread. We have survived the giants of the day, but as the light fades, we realize we have only been watching the opening act. The real owners of the Amazon, the creatures that have mastered the art of the unseen and the dark, are only just beginning to stir. The shadows are no longer just patches of darkness. They are becoming solid, breathing entities. The light is fading, and that's when the real owners of the Amazon wake up. The darkness here is not merely an absence of light. It is a heavy, velvet curtain that almost smothers the senses and forces the mind to rely on instincts long forgotten. As the last slivers of gold vanish from the high canopy, the emerald green wall transforms into a black abyss where the rules of the civilized world no longer apply. We are no longer the observers. We have become the observed. Our flashlights are feeble toys against this ancient pulsing gloom, piercing only a few feet into a world that has never known the safety of a street lamp. In this total eclipse of the familiar, the true nature of the Amazon reveals itself. It is not a place of malice, though every vine seems to reach for our ankles. Every rustle sounds like a closing trap. It is a place of supreme, cold efficiency. The apex ghost, that invisible force we have felt since our first step into the humidity, is finally in its true element. While we stumble over gnarled roots and flinch at the frantic whir of a beetle's wings, the jaguar is moving with a fluidity that borders on the supernatural. It does not need the light to navigate this labyrinth. Its whiskers map the subtle air currents, and its ears triangulate the frantic pulse of a nearby tapir with terrifying precision. We realize now that the terror we feel is not a flaw in our character, but a ghost of an ancient survival mechanism. Shivering humans were once a part of this hierarchy, huddling around flickering fires, fearing the shadows just as we do now. But we have traded our instincts for convenience, our night vision for screens, and our silence for the constant roar of a world that never sleeps. Here, deep within the heart of the forest, that trade feels like a catastrophic betrayal. We stand at the threshold of the deep Amazon, a region so dense and remote that it remains one of the last great mysteries of our planet. Satellite imagery can map the vast trees from orbit, but it cannot see what breathes beneath the three-tiered ceiling of leaves. There are valleys here that have never heard the sound of a human footfall, where the evolution of the predators may have taken even stranger, more specialized turns than the ones we have witnessed. Perhaps there are things in the pitch blackness that even the jaguar avoids. Creatures that have remained completely unchanged since the dawn of the megafauna, hidden by the sheer scale of the green labyrinth. The Amazon is a living, breathing archive, a library of life and death that refuses to be fully indexed or understood. It reminds us that for all our technological dominance, there are still corners of the earth where we are nothing more than a fragile curiosity, a temporary visitor in a world that does not recognize our authority. As we begin our slow, careful retreat toward the edge of this wild territory, a profound silence settles over the landscape. It is not the silence of peace, but the heavy, expectant silence of a theater before the curtains rise on a final act. In the Amazon, silence is a predator's greatest asset and its most honest communication. It is the language of the hunt. When the forest goes quiet, it means the balance is shifting once again. We leave with a renewed respect for this brutal masterpiece of evolution. We are the only creatures that do not belong here, the only ones who require a map and a guide to survive a single night. The forest does not care about our names. It only cares about our pulse. It is a world that functions with certainty without us, a place where existence is earned every second. Next time you are in a quiet room, listen to the silence. In the Amazon, silence is the last thing you ever hear. There are still shadows we have not explored. If you want to see what else is hiding in the dark, subscribe. We are going deeper next time, into the heart of the unseen. The light finally dies out into nothing. A low, vibrating growl ripples through the air. The darkness is absolute. Everything ends in the shadows.